face shield on, I'm not sure. Oh, that's okay. Welcome to the 2:30 service. This is a religious service. And thank you for wearing your masks and keeping the distance, social distance that we demand here. I'm going to begin with a prayer. What greatest gifts can we give the universe than to be the beings that they have intended us to be? What greatest gifts than to walk in kindness and love, changing the world in every step? What greatest gifts than to hold joy within you, that every being you encounter, you are an example of what should really be. When you walk into light, the whole universe walks beside you, giving your inner strength and beauty that all want to talk with you and walk with you and to share in your light. This is a nice book. A friend of mine channels prayers, and they're beautiful. And you just open the book one day, and that's the prayer that you need to have for yourself. Is anybody here for the first time? Welcome, welcome. Please come back again. And those of you who have been here before, I'd like to see you. I have 3 sets of directions here for this. Oh, I'm going to remind you about the flowers on the platform. These can be purchased and donated in honor of an anniversary of a funeral, a memory of someone, anything that you wish to honor. And you may contact the office to purchase something like this. Let's stand, if you will, and we're going to sing together a hymn to raise the vibration before our speaker. We're going to sing Open My Eyes, and the words should be up on the screen for you. Has been a registered medium at LilyDale since 2003, and she's a lifetime member of the LilyDale Assembly. She's also personally recommended as a medium by James Van. Willa resides with her husband and children here in LilyDale as an active member of the LilyDale community. She enjoys teaching spiritual development classes at Jamestown Community College and various churches. her autumn class list on her website. Starting in September, Willa will be hosting a weekly LilyDale radio show at 10 a.m. Wednesdays with Willa. Sounds good. The first show will be next week, so tune in. Willa feels her work as a spiritual medium and teacher of others are important expressions of her deepening and understanding of the divine. Please welcome our speaker, Reverend Willa White.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to LilyDale today. It's always such a blessing to be able to serve on the summer program platform, and I love being able to share about spiritualism and also spiritual ideas, concepts, and practices. So today I'm going to be talking about spiritual courage and how to live in heaven's net. So when we look at courage, it turns out to be that it's more of a mosaic than a single item. And when you have those diverse elements, they all kind of contribute to the completion of that. Courage involves vulnerability, faith, love, honesty, empathy, wisdom, endurance, and trust. Taken together, these components reveal the core meaning of courage. Courage enables us to brave dangers and move through obstacles, endure suffering, or lift ourselves out of it. It may benefit the self or save another from peril or even death. And although we admire physical courage, extreme sports, athletic feats, daring adventures, what we want most for ourselves is that quality of spirit called moral courage. The virtue by which we act with integrity in spite of fear. Moral courage reveals us at our best, and it calls to those depths in us desirous of graced humanity. There are various scientific studies that reveal the characteristics found in people we would call heroes or heroines. Those who rush to aid someone in a burning car that's trapped there, or they plunge into the freezing waters to save another, scale mountains to rescue the injured. We can't imagine them acting otherwise. They can't imagine themselves acting otherwise. They do not think that what they're doing is anything unusual. Anybody would do it, they say. Ask where they found the courage to do what they did, and they reply that it was the right thing to do. That what matters more than any material possessions is love of others. I realize there are many examples that I could use in this moment, but I wanted to include this one that's an icon in pop culture. And it's a bit of a humorous one. How many of you seen the movie Forrest Gump? Pretty much all of you have seen that movie with Tom Hanks, and in one of the scenes of the movie, he's a soldier in the Vietnam War. And you all know this part of the story very well. His platoon is ambushed, and he starts running to escape the ambush, because that's what Forrest Gump does. He runs. And he finds safety in a clearing, but then he realizes that his friend Bubba is still in there. And so he leaves safety, and he runs back into the jungle to search for Bubba. And while he's there, a downed soldier from his platoon cries out for help. So he carries that man out, and he plunges back into the forest, the jungle, to find Bubba. Another soldier needs him, so he carries him out, and then another, until he finally locates Bubba. It does not occur to Forrest that he is a hero who has rescued many men of his unit. He was only trying to find Bubba. As often as we honor our military service men as heroes, there are many examples of civilians who do the right thing. When I read the book, The Zookeeper's Wife, by Diane Ackerman, before it became famous in a movie, I was really fascinated by the details of the events in Poland during the Nazi occupation surrounding the Warsaw Zoo and the Warsaw Ghetto. That zoo served as a safe house for escaping Jews. And every day of that occupation, many Polish people quietly put their own lives in peril to serve others, to help them to escape the Warsaw Ghetto, to help them to move on to better and brighter things. Without always giving a religious name to it, courageous people exemplify the universal spiritual principle of compassion for all beings, and they are an example of courage. In the 13th century, the philosopher and theologian Thomas Aquinas, he included courage, or fortitude, among the 4 cardinal virtues, the other 3 being prudence, justice, and temperance. Now, courage involves honoring commitment and living from conviction, even if we are afraid. In fact, the only thing powerful enough to overcome fear is a goal fed by the soul's desires. Since courage draws upon the heart's resources, it matters what shape our heart is in. What will we discover in that deepest core of the self when we are frightened and still must do the right thing? Will the center hold? That's a question at different points that we may ask ourselves when we're up against things. On a daily basis, as a medium, I help people who are working through various things, including fear. There's so many things to be afraid of that becomes a focus. And then we work toward courage. We work toward living in heaven's net. The answer lies not so much in trying to pump up our moral muscles as in becoming very clear about what we love, what we believe, and how we integrate those values more fully into our lives. Basically, we need to know what we love and value and have faith in. We have to go back to the core values, the spiritual principles that exist for each one of us, and live from an understanding of spiritual, natural law. This is what conquers fear. As Florence Shinn, the 20th century New Thought writer, states, fear is man's only adversary. Fear of lack, fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of health, fear of personality, fear of criticism. Fear robs you of all power, for you have lost your contact with the universal powerhouse. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For faith holds the vision steady, and the adverse pictures are dissolved, they're dissipated, and in due season we shall reap if we faint not. I love old words and how phrases, they're so lyrical, the way people used to write. The things they used to express, you could feel the very soul in those words. And that's why I share them with you today. The struggle with fear intensifies as we face physical and emotional pain. Aging, increased disability, proximity to death, these are all powerful forces that many people are facing today. And facing these fears, or succumbing to depression and despair, makes all the difference in how we grow in this world. Jane Tybalt, a clinical gerontologist at the University of Louisville Medical School in Kentucky, wanted to find a way to transform a sense of hopelessness and futility that accompany such pain. As a scientist, Tybalt recognized that all the energy the body generates and uses when in pain could be converted to positive spiritual energy of love for others. And this conversion involves shifting one's focus from self-pain to others in need. So in 1995, she met with a group of 13 elderly nuns in an effort to help them deal with their chronic pain. Each one of those 13 nuns was in extreme pain and had dealt with this for many years on end. As she discussed this with the nuns, her idea resonated with the nuns who knew of the traditional practice of redemptive suffering. What an interesting phrase. Tybalt's first visit with them took place the day after the Oklahoma City bombing. Seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it? But back then, that is something that people were praying for. There's always something to pray for. There's always someone to help. At that time, the nuns dedicated their suffering to the families of the 168 victims. And during the year that Tybalt met with the sisters, she noticed dramatic changes. And what does that mean, dramatic changes? She asked each one of those nuns to keep a journal, to record any of the psychological or emotional changes that they experienced. They met with her monthly in a group, each taking a minute or so to share, if they wished, the nature of their current pain and for whom they would offer it. By the end of the year, they were talking less about their physical symptoms and visiting physicians less. This spiritual practice revived their sense of having a mission. They had conquered their fear that their pain ruled them. So if you or another person is in that mode of despair or fear, how can you conquer your fear? One technique is redemptive suffering. That all that you're experiencing, you give that up as a prayer for another person. That you focus on others during that time. And watch how the attention off of your own pain shifts what is going on in your own life. In each of the major spiritual traditions, there is a point in prayer where peace comes from surrendering to a larger reality. Everyone has their own reality, and then there is the reality. When we do this prayer of surrendering to the larger reality, we relinquish control. We give up trying to understand or change things very much. Throughout the years, throughout the ages, saints and prophets from diverse spiritual traditions have gone down on their knees to plead for assistance, rising up to meet tremendous challenges. There's a famous Trappist monk. Many of you may have heard of him. His name is Thomas Merton. And he explained in his book, Thoughts in Solitude, he prayed to God in his confusion. I'm going to just briefly share some of his words with you now. See if this resonates with you. My Lord God, I have no idea where I am going. I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end, nor do I really know myself. And the fact that I think I am following your will does not mean that I am actually doing so. But I believe that the desire in all that I am doing, I hope that I will never do anything apart from that desire. And I know that if I do this, you will lead me by the right road, though I may know nothing about it. Therefore, I will trust you always, though I may seem to be lost and in the shadow of death. I will not fear, for you are ever with me, and you will never leave me to face my perils alone. Every step we take is with God. We have got to realize that. Some people embrace the illusion of separation from God. And that is why when we come back into the recognition of that divine space within us again, that strong connection of the soul with God, we feel the flow of God's will in our life, and we are aligned to the higher purpose. Ordinary people who deal daily with less heroic measures of courage do the same thing. Sometimes just every day can be a struggle for someone. Walking up to someone and asking them for help in that moment. Making a phone call. Reaching out to someone that perhaps you have needed to, but you've been fearful about. If you know that God is with you, then you know that you are coming of best intention and working in that higher way. Turning to God when we are scared comes as naturally to human beings as breathing. It can be that way. It can be as naturally as breathing if we let it. So how shall we pray when we're anxious or afraid? Thich Nhat Hanh suggests that one way lies in reciting Buddhist sutras or sayings. In his book, Touching Peace, he offers a mindfulness verse that cuts to the core of anxiety. Here is its shorter format. If you want to close your eyes, you're welcome to just enjoy these words by Thich Nhat Hanh. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I feel solid. Mountain. Solid. You can silently recite the sutra when you're lying down, when you're sitting, or you're walking, so you are grounded with divine purpose. You can visualize that you are a mountain, standing tall. The very top of you aligns with God and the sky, and you are surrounded by blessed peace. You can even do this in a shortened form. You can say mountain as you breathe in and solid as you breathe out. So quietly to yourself you can say, breathing in, mountain, breathing out, solid. And there is a mountain in each one of us. We are more solid and resilient than we think. I love reading, and you've probably guessed that by now by all these different references to various books and things. But I find power in words and allowing them to become infused into my very being. And I love what Carolyn Steffen, who was a Quaker of the 1800s, explained. She said, a true mystic believes that all men have, as he himself is conscious of having, an inward life, into which is into a secret chamber he can retreat at will. In this inner chamber, he finds a refuge from the ever-changing aspects of outward existence. He finds there first repose, then guidance, a light which burns and purifies, a voice which subdues. He finds himself in the presence of God. So as you are the mountain and breathing in and breathing out, you will find yourself in the presence of God, that which is the divine. And you have a choice in every moment. So you can decide to be a host to God and carry around with you that calmness that is the divine. Or you can be a hostage to your ego, which insists that you can't really help feeling disorderly when you're in circumstances that resemble pandemonium. How can we fortify ourselves in these moments? The true master knows that the ability to stay calm is always located within. Do you want to be in a state of confusion? Or do you want to have a tranquil inner landscape? I encourage each and every one of you to get to know that tranquil inner landscape. Now earlier I mentioned heaven's net. What is the net of heaven? It's a curious phrase if you're not familiar with it. It is the invisible world wherein all things originate. In the 73rd verse of the Tao Te Ching, a book of wisdom that's been translated more than any volume in the world, with the exception of the Bible, Lao Tzu writes, bold action against others leads to death. Bold action in harmony with the Tao leads to life. Both of these things sometimes benefit and sometimes injure. It is heaven's way to conquer without striving. It does not speak, yet it is answered. It does not ask, yet it is supplied with all that it needs. It does not hurry, yet it has completed everything on time. The net of heaven catches all. Its mesh is coarse, but nothing slips through. Early on in my journey as a professional medium, I realized that I had to set aside fears that I may have, ego I may have about doing message work, that I was to be in the awareness of God, and that there was a net of heaven, that universal safety net, so that at any given moment when I give that message, I'm allowing myself to leap off into the abyss and have faith and trust in that journey, that God will work through me in those moments to give a message of peace and joy to others. There are moments where we have to give ourselves over to the divine purpose and know that there is a net of heaven that will catch us. And we are encouraged by Lao Tzu's 73rd verse to be respectful and cautious, but know that we are under the net of heaven. We are asked to change the way we look at courage. You can relax into heaven's net. It's this invisible and silent force that provides you with every breath and holds the universe together at the same time. And it does so without commanding, without yelling, or even mildly cajoling you. It's just there. So be in harmony with heaven's way by being more cautious. Listen more and speak less, trusting that your answers will come to you without any notice, and most assuredly, without any screaming. I like Albert Einstein's quote, "Be willing to have it so. Acceptance of what has happened is the first step to overcoming the consequences of any misfortune." At some point you have to say, this is what is so, and now we move forward. We move out of that moment of anxiety and fear and step into that which is divinely perfect in heaven's way. And you are a component of perfect order. Your supply will arrive if you require less and welcome all that shows up. You simply can't slip through heaven's net. It's not possible, no matter how many holes you may perceive to be there. It is not other people's concept of the divine. It is the divine. It is heaven's net. And like those heroes and heroines who have saved people against all odds, they aren't focusing on any perceived holes. They're not focusing on their ego. They are focusing on saving people. And every day we can make that choice in how we react to what is coming to us. We can quiet our minds. We can allow things to feed our brains that assist us in our thoughts, to quiet that inner turmoil. To still the mind, we saturate ourselves with that deep attention, that vigorous calm that so many that have gone before us have found. They have found grace. There are these moments that we create of wonder and tranquility, and occasionally something even more rare, pleasure. But most definitely grace. Sometimes we cannot avoid being alone. Others cannot always be physically at our sides to support us. But prayer that evokes the presence of trusted loved ones can support us even then, as well as angels supporting us every given moment. As we make our way through frightening experiences, a meditation that draws support of others can be helpful. I'm going to do just a brief meditation with you if you want to close your eyes again. This is a technique for handling this when you're needing to call upon the presence of love in your life. As your eyes are closed, picture yourself in a calming place, wherever that may be. Breathing in and breathing out. Relaxing with each breath. Knowing that you are united with God. And invite, one by one, wise people whose love you trust to form a circle around you. These wisdom figures can be living or dead, religious or not. People sometimes choose Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, a favorite saint, grandparents, parents, friends, mentors, pets. Once you've filled out your circle, simply be in the encompassing presence and take in anything that comes to you. Sometimes it is merely a sense of love and comfort. At other times, there is shared wisdom. You may sense their presence, giving thanks for the love. And even though this is just a brief moment, know that you can return to that meditation at a later time, again, and draw strength from it. Give thanks for their presence, and when you feel ready, open your eyes, knowing that they may still be around you, and you may still receive messages throughout the day of strength and peace and grace to help you through your life, to help you through fear, to help others through fear. They are with you. At the speed of love, they are with you. What I have learned about courage is this, that grace comes when you need it. And it creates a highway through situations that appear impassable. When looking at those events from the outside, or trying to look at them ahead of time, it can give no indication of the strength that will be there in the actual doing of the deed. Angels show up, loved ones show up, you show up. And we can take those small steps that gradually make us more courageous in our life. And each time we refuse to betray our most important values, each time we face down a fear that tells us we cannot do what we must, when we face that down, our strength grows. And unlimited opportunities for courage occur every day. Remember that that ability to stay calm is always located within. May you be free from the fear of the dark unknown spaces. May you give birth to new possibilities. Remember that you are part of God's adventure and that you are empowered to do that which your heart dreams. I'll leave that with love and blessings. Go in peace. Thank you.
Meditate? Anybody meditate? You look very peaceful after this meditation now. It's a nice gift to give to yourself. I'd like to speak about the fact that this auditorium has been, was originally built in 1883. And we no longer take pass a basket because of the COVID-19 regulations, but we do have a basket over there for the donation. And all the monies go to maintain this building, which is old and in need of repair many times. If you're here in person, or you can go online, this historic building for your comfort and pleasure by placing your donation in the basket. I'd like to bless the auditorium ahead of time, bless all these gifts and the givers, make us all mindful of one another, and bless this community. There's always something to do in LilyDale. Some of the stores and so on are closed now, but we do have Bob's Bargain Store, which is a shop up on, straight up the street there, and they got left. Bob's Bargain Store is there, and if you make the right, there's a store called Once Upon a Thursday. They have There's also the bookstore right outside of here. And the Mouth is the restaurant, and there's also an ice cream pagoda. And if you bring things yourself, there are lots of areas that you can picnic and enjoy the lake out here. It's a nice day today. Also, there are bathrooms, restrooms, at the brick building right down the walk here, men's and ladies. Also at the firehouse, there are outside bathrooms. And the healing temple